So welcome to the Hangout, the virtual Hangout for SIETAR Florida. My name is Curtis Curry. I'm the president of SIETAR Florida this year. And I've been involved with intercultural relations most of my life, all of my adult life. And what we do here is, it's the Society for Intercultural Education, Training, and Research. So it's a great place to learn more about education in terms of intercultural education, in terms of the kind of research that's going on, and in terms of intercultural communications and intercultural effectiveness, leadership, etc. And the last part is training, which is really my background. Well, I guess my background is training and education because I'm a university professor as well. But I primarily see myself as a business owner and a trainer. And my specialization is leadership development. And I would like to pass the guitar to Rachel.
Thank you, Curtis. My name is Rachel Assignon, and I am the program's ambassador for SIETAR Florida for the 2020-2021 year. And my responsibility is to pool resources and host programs and set our calendar for the year. And we're really trying to focus this year on not just cultures, but also languages, culture groups, belief systems, other things that are part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion sector. Any groups that could possibly be excluded or marginalized that we really want to add an element of inclusion. That might even be something from the LGBTQ community, religious communities, and other things like that. That's our main focus for SIETAR Florida for this year. And we also have a guest who I'd like to introduce, Pim Parpart, who I know through Toastmasters. Pim has great stories to share. And Pim, I'd like to hear a little bit from you about who you are and what do you want to know about SIETAR Florida?
Hello, everybody. My name is Pim Parpart. I am originally from Thailand. And I go ahead and say I'm also a Buddhist. I have lived in this country for so many years, since 1974. Of course, you can take a girl out of the country, but you cannot take the culture out of them. So this group is appealing to me because this is something I do want to get involved with. I am now retired, but I am also now a full-time Toastmasters to support the district this year. But I'm very interested in this intercultural program because this is something that I like to do in the future. I like to be a part of how we can help improve the people of all cultures, all backgrounds, religious. And the reason I joined Toastmasters to improve my English. And I have found out that when you can communicate better, it improves everything else in your life. So I like to get involved to help people improve their communication skills and leadership skills so they can benefit personally and professionally like I did in my profession. I was with Rockwell Collins for 30 years. And through Toastmaster, I was able to advance rapidly, really. It gave me the confidence to do other things. And that's how I would like to get involved is there a way that I can help the people who need help, like other people have helped me. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, we're glad to have you here. And usually the group is bigger. We're going to start doing our announcements a couple weeks earlier and try and get a more robust participation, especially from our colleagues across the state. I see the Space Coast is overrepresented. Patricia is my wife. She does cross-cultural coaching, intercultural coaching, and also intercultural training. And she wasn't able to be here today. My son works at UPS, and his wife works in finance. She's Chinese. They weren't able to be here today either because they're going to Colorado to visit my daughter. But typically they're here. And I have some other friends that I'm going to get at our next meeting, which will be, if you could go ahead, Rachel, when is our next meeting scheduled for?
That is for the virtual hangout that we have next is November 5th.
Great. So I want to, so we'll work to get folks here for November 5th. Do you recall what topic we set for November 5th?
I do recall. It's about the type of training people have received as it relates to cultures and intercultural activity, and also the types of certifications that people hold. And it's really just an information sharing. And for those who don't have any formal training, this is a great way to learn about it if that's something that you're looking to add to your portfolio.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really exciting. And a lot of our members, we have members who range from international business professionals who focus on tourism or, in my case, training, through educators, university professors, to professionals out in the business world, to teachers. Who am I missing? In terms of our membership, it's a pretty broad swath of individuals, all with the same passion and interest in creating bridges of across cultures, bridges of understanding across different cultural groups.
Where are you teaching?
I teach at the Jack Welch Management Institute, and I teach in an MBA program, leadership and people management as well.
Nice.
He's also connected with Florida Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm.
Pim and I both belong to the Florida International Talkers Toastmasters Club, which is one of the inroads into FIT, but we would actually like to make some more connections there as well, especially with some of the folks who are here year round. We'd like to have a combination of students and those who are here year round and really promote public speaking, leadership, confidence, all of those things, because those pair very nicely with anyone in the intercultural field that are giving talks or presenting their research or they're teaching courses, being able to deliver that message in a compelling way.
Right. We have in our own backyard the Institute for Cross-Cultural Management at Florida Tech. And I'm actually a fellow there, and I've worked with them to develop training programs and taught classes and worked with students there. So we have, I have a very close relationship with the executive director. And I'd love to give his students, and they're IO psychology students primarily, but there may be students from other disciplines as well. I'd like to see more international business students involved, and to get them involved as well for the research aspect. Because a lot of the folks and the faculty at FIT is doing very good research in cross-cultural subjects and intercultural subjects. So this might be an opportunity for us to learn more about the kind of work they're doing too. So we'll be setting up programs throughout the year. And one thing that might be helpful for Pam and for the people who aren't able to attend, but who are going to watch the recording, to quickly go over some of the activities that we have coming up. And for that, I will turn it over to our program ambassador.
Thank you. That's something that's new for SIETAR Florida this year. Is typically we just have a president and then the past president, including the immediate past president, as a group of a board, so to speak. But we did add my position this year because we felt like we needed to really focus on this specific local group and grow it and expand it. And we can't just lean on the president to do such a Herculean task. So we wanted to add another position. We're also looking at another position, which would be somebody that would handle membership recruitment and maintaining communication and relationships with the membership. So some of the things that we have coming this year are, some of them are hosted by SIETAR Florida. Our next program is actually co-hosted with us and SIETAR DC. So the Washington DC local group had somehow heard about one of the webinars that we had done back in the spring, and they wanted it to be done for them as well. So we're actually co-hosting this. This is going to be on October 28th at 7:30 p.m. And I need to put something on our Facebook page right now about that. So the discussion is going to be about managing remotely begins with mitigating bias, and really talking about when people are working remotely, what are the types of unconscious bias that falls into play? What are some of those assumptions that we're making about people that may or may not be true? So we get into the brain science a little bit about the dual systems theory and how does unconscious bias work, and the bad news of we all have it. So, and how to work with it and around it and overcome it. So it's going to be coming up on October 28th. We are slating virtual hangouts once a month, and the theme for the November month is going to be about training, certifications. We really want to hear from our guests and also our members what types of training they have, and also what types of certifications do they have. We want to know more about what are people doing in the intercultural space, whether it's professionally or personally, what sort of role are they taking? So we thought that for this specific hangout, we would talk more about what are people doing? What are their experiences? Where have they worked? And what types of work have they done with intercultural activities? And then the next month, we can talk a little bit about what kind of training have we gotten, or is it all school of hard knocks, so to speak? In December, our virtual hangout is going to be about holiday traditions, and just talking a little bit about what are the holidays in December. We focus so frequently on Christmas, and of course the US has its own version of Christmas, but we have lots of other countries in the world that celebrate Christmas. Some countries you'll find they do Las Posadas, or they do a Yule log or something like that. But then we also have some other things happening in December too, with the solstice, the winter solstice. We also have Hanukkah and people preparing for New Year. So we're just going to kind of broaden our scope in December. I forgot to mention November 17, we're having a panel discussion on how to start an intercultural business. We've heard a lot from our members who are not currently in an intercultural position necessarily, but they're really interested in it and they're really passionate about it, and they want to do something about that passion. So one of the things that we thought we would talk about is invite Curtis, being one, and Patricia, who was the founder of SIETAR Florida, and then Yuko, who's our immediate past president, all of whom have intercultural businesses. So we wanted to have a panel discussion with them about what does it take to start a business, and what are the things that you need to think about, what is your business plan, and how do you narrow it down to a specific scope or a specific target group of clients and customers, and is there any legislation involved, and how do you incorporate and get registered in the state of Florida as a business, and all of those good things. So then that brings us to the virtual hangout on holiday traditions, which I just mentioned. December 7, our program is going to be an evening program, and that's going to be about Hanukkah and then the Thai New Year. And Pim has graciously agreed to be a presenter to talk to us about the Thai traditions involving the New Year. In January, we'll be having a virtual hangout about sustaining an intercultural business. And we're going to look to some of our members to talk about how they've been in business so long and what does it take to do that. February, we're going to be looking at cultural tools and instruments, specifically assessments. There are lots of different schools of thought out there about how do you measure culture or cultural aptitude or cultural appetite, especially when you're working as a consultant with a business. How do you come in and assess what their needs are currently? Was there a specific racial or discriminatory incident that prompted this? Is there workplace hostility? Or are they just interested in bringing that in for professional development or HR purposes or something? And once we get in there, how do we measure things? How do we analyze? So we're going to be talking about some of those cultural tools and instruments. And there's a lot of our members who are certified in different instruments and assessment tools. So we're going to talk about those. In March, we're going to set up a workshop where it's a make and take, where people are bringing activities that they have used in cultural workshops, and we're going to actually do some of those activities. And we're going to share our best practices and activities with one another. And then finally, in April, we are going to have Curtis's Culture and Cocktails. Hopefully, if COVID cooperates. That's a huge sentence of alliteration just then. We are hoping that we can hang out at his home or maybe some public place and share a drink together, whatever type of drink people like, and just have a in-person hangout instead of a virtual hangout. So that's kind of what our calendar looks like so far this year. We have a few other programs that I'm working on, but I don't have anything booked. One of the things I'm thinking about is maybe inviting a researcher or students or professors to present some of the research that they've been working on as it relates to culture. One of the things that a lot of intercultural researchers are scrambling on right now is, how does COVID affect different cultures? I know for me and my French family, not being able to kiss each other on the cheeks is just disparaging. So depressing, because that's how we communicate with one another. But a lot of cultures are affected because of this distancing and isolation. So we might find some research that will be presented that will be really interesting there. I also have a few people in my network who are transgender that I would like to have them come and talk a little bit about what is their life like as it relates to legislation, as it relates to HR policy, and things like that. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. It's going to be a pretty exciting year. And that's just SIETAR Florida. There are so many other local groups that are hosting really cool events too, that we want to make sure that our members are also aware of.
Right. That was a great job, a great overview of some of the things that we already have on the books for this year coming up in terms of our programming, and some potential programs. If you have an idea, again, speaking to all of our members out there, if you have an idea for a program that you'd like to see, let us know. And there's no rule that says we can't have 2 programs in 1 month. And we still have the rest of the year after April. So we have plenty of time to schedule in other programs. I want to, Pim, thank you for volunteering to do the holiday special. I think that's great. So, kop kum krop. And
good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, really good job.
The again, one of our main focuses is on letting people know about this great opportunity we have to gather together and to talk about culture, to talk about our experiences. We have a passion for different cultures. Many of our members, most of our members, speak are bilingual or multilingual, speaking even more than a couple languages. So there's that passion for learning about languages and culture and different ways of seeing the world, different foods, different religions. So we're interested in the whole gamut, and that's what we'll be focusing on this year. So for those of you listening to the message here, we invite you to attend our next meeting, which is, again, Rachel.
That is going to be the evening program with SIETAR DC. Managing remotely begins with mitigating bias. That is going to be an evening webinar on October 28th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
So mark your calendar for that. And then mark your calendar for it's first Thursday in every month is when we plan to have our informal get-togethers where we can simply chat. We'll always have a short meeting up front just to tell you what's going on, what programs are coming up, what programs that we recently did, but the majority of the time we'll be able to share ideas, talk about current events, things like that, as we've always done. Ever since I've been involved with SIETAR Florida anyway. I like that informal, really informal feel. SIETAR USA is coming up if any of you would be interested in going to attend SIETAR USA. And that is a multi-day conference. It's a virtual conference this year, and there will be all types of presentations relating to intercultural topics and diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. So what's that?
The dates on that is October 8th through the 13th.
Yeah, and you can come to the Florida Facebook page. We'll put some information on the conference as well, a link there so you can sign up for the conference. I don't have the exact price off the top of my head, but it's pretty inexpensive for especially a 5-day opportunity like that with so many great speakers with hundreds and hundreds of years of experience working across cultures. So there's my plug for SIETAR USA conference. Mm-hmm. And that's really all I had today to talk about. Rachel or Kim, any burning issues that you'd like to chat about today?
Yes, since our theme is about intercultural careers and experience, I do want to open the floor to kind of talk about what kind of experience do people on the call have, formal and informal. So with that, I can start. I have done various workshops workshops mainly about cultural intelligence and the various dimensions in cultural intelligence. So for example, we do an assessment ahead of time, kind of see where all of the participants are. And this is one of the certifications that I hold. And then we look at the assessment and we unpack it. So for example, we look at power distance. So in some cultures, there is a clear hierarchy and you only talk to the people in your level or perhaps your superior. But if there are several levels above you, you're not going to casually or formally talk with those other levels. But if you have a low power distance, you can go up and down that ladder without thinking about it. That's something that we see in the US generationally. So if you are in the category of a boomer, you are going to have a very high power distance. You are not going to speak to the CEO unless you were actually invited to do so. But if you're more like a millennial, they see power distance as something that is not that distant, that everybody can just talk to everybody. So sometimes it's a cultural value and sometimes it is generational. So those are some of the things that I have done. And one of the other things that we talk about is individualism versus collectivism. Most cultures in the world are collectivist. And Pim has probably heard me give a speech on this topic at least once. Collectivism is the idea that I don't make decisions purely on how it affects me as an individual, but I look at the group as a whole. How is this going to affect my family? How is this going to affect my community? How is this going to affect my house of worship even, or my coworkers or something? But individualists, they make decisions purely on how does it affect me and me alone. My actions do not affect those around me. I can't bring shame to my family necessarily because I'm an individual, versus the collectivists that honor in the family versus shame in the family is a real thing. And it's really something that is focused on. I try and encourage people who are going abroad on specifically missions trips, especially to Africa or to some of the Caribbean nations, to not ask questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up, when you're talking to kids? Because they may have their own hopes and dreams, sure, but a lot of times it's the family that determines what does our group need. So we already have a doctor, we already have a lawyer, we need an engineer, and you're it. Versus I want to be whatever it is that I want to be, and that's what I'm going to choose. So it's really fascinating study of where all of those cultural values come together for different culture groups around the world. So those are the types of workshops that I have conducted.
That's great. And that's really useful information. Rachel, one of the things I was going to suggest that we start doing is putting together a list of members, and then short bullets of what their major areas of work are, in terms of being able to network more efficiently, in terms of being able to refer one another.
Yeah,
That's what popped into my mind as I heard you speaking. And so you and I can talk more about that. Also, I just want a reminder out there, we are looking for a membership director. We'd like to create another board position because we want to expand the group here in Florida. And I'll talk just very briefly about a little bit more about my background. And so I started I started my interest in intercultural as an exchange student, as many people do. And I was an exchange student at University of Oxford, and for an entire year at University of Leicester in England. And later on, I did another foreign student stint at University in the south of France, where I picked up French, and I also picked up a wife. My wife was studying French with me. She's actually Colombian, and so those relationships that are created studying abroad, they happen quite frequently, I think. My son has an experience too, but he can share that when he comes on with his study abroad in China. So very, very interested in intercultural relations and languages. I worked at Miami-Dade College, their Center for Business and Industry. And Miami is very intercultural city, lots and lots of cultures there, from the West Indies and Latin America, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, Cubanos, Colombianos. So it's Haitianos, very, very diverse community. I worked the first intercultural cross-cultural communication workshop I did while I was at Miami-Dade College. And it was a program with development experts, rural development experts from the Caribbean and Latin America. And that was a lot of fun, and I was hooked. So from that time on, and that was, let's say, several decades ago that I did that. I ran the World Trade Institute of the Americas for a while. That's an organization dedicated to training people involved in international business, freight forwarders, tourism, letters of credit, international banking, those kinds of folks. And so I did that for a couple years before going to Central America, where I ran a Peace Corps training operation. So we had a whole cross-cultural component to that, and then all of the technical projects, hillside farming, environmental protection, healthcare, business, small business. So those were some of the sectors that we had. So I worked with American volunteers who went into communities and did development work. We had a very robust cross-cultural training program that included language learning. So I basically ran that and was in charge of the design for the training. Came back from Central America, had both of our children while we were living in Honduras, and came back to the Space Coast, where we started our international consulting business. And we've been doing that for 23 years. The business focuses on leadership development. So that's what we do. I've worked with a lot of international customers, Asia, Europe, particularly Latin America. I speak Spanish, so we do leadership development programs in Spanish. I do finance training in Portuguese, which is a little different for someone whose focus is leadership development, but it's simulation. It's a lot of fun. It's a really great program. In terms of training, we'll talk more about that later, so I'm not going to mention the kinds of training programs that I've done. I do have a master's in international studies, and that had a heavy focus on international development, so economic development, political development, historical development, with an emphasis, with a focus on Latin America and the Caribbean. So that's a little bit about my cross-cultural and training experience. Pam?
Yeah, when I heard Rachel was talking about the boomer and the culture, I was thinking about myself. I am the boomer, and with my culture, we are very disciplined. So you're right. I would not go above my immediate boss to go above them to make any complaint about that, which is something the American would not hesitate to do at all. But yes, our culture does control our behavior, even though I've been in this country for a long time, but it doesn't change who I really am. I study intercultural communication in college, and that's when I was really, really interested in this kind of program. And I did not mention that I'm also a VP Public Relations for my temple. There's a Buddhist temple in Melbourne, and I'm very heavily involved with them. So my whole purpose of really being interested in this kind of program is to learn about other people's cultures and languages and religions and everything that I can learn from them, but also to share my culture, my country, my immediate country. I'm an American now, the country I was born with, and of course the religions. Mm-hmm. Just a way of sharing, not trying to change anything, but just sharing. And that's funny because one time when people still coming around knock on your door to promote their religions, and I was asking them, because I keep telling them, I'm Buddhist. Why are you still coming to talk to me? And they said, I am not here to change you. I am here to share with you. So that makes it sound very, very positive. So that's what we all should do, to share each other's beliefs and cultures and all that. Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm very interested in being part of your group, and I will attend when I can, and I will participate when I can.
Thank you, Pim. And I'm sure you have a variety of speeches that you've delivered about your own culture as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I have been a Toastmaster for 30 years, and I talk a lot about Thai cultures.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about when you talk about the program, we can even have cooking lesson,
That
different
would be great. Yeah.
different kind of cooking lesson from the members. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is you'll find a lot of fans in SIETAR, Florida, of Thai cuisine. I know at least two, because Patricia and I love Thai food.
Okay.
I guess three of us.
Yeah, I keep meaning to go to the Buddhist temple in Melbourne on Sundays
Sunday.
because they always have like their food court. And for whatever reason, I just have not been there yet. But I have a pen in my purse that says, I love Thai food, courtesy of Pim. I have two of them. I have one from my Vegas event from Toastmasters as well. I have two of them. I love the idea of doing some cooking lessons. Was it, Curtis, did we hear that just recently with one of the other local groups?
It's not ringing a bell, but I think it's a great idea. It'd be a lot of fun.
I know what it is. It was the multicultural networking group out of the Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce. They did some sort of cooking lesson with an Indian woman, if I'm not mistaken. I know I heard something about that. I love that idea. I am going to add that. And while we have members all across the state of Florida, we could still find a way to do it online or something and make sure that we can have an up close and personal view of what's happening on that stove.
I'll see if Patricia could be nice if we had like 4 people sharing their recipes and kind of just demonstrating how to make whatever you're making. You know, people take their computers to their kitchens and maybe try to follow along. Patty made the most wonderful salsa last night with mango.
That sounds good.
So good. That would be a great recipe to share. And I'd love to see some of your recipes too.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Pim, I'm also very interested in learning more about Thailand. It's a country I don't know a lot about. And so again, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you, Pim.
So Rachel and I will always check with Rachel. Rachel's very good at making sure that we cover everything we need to cover before we say goodbye. Rachel, how have we done?
We've done great. Yeah, I want to remind everybody that we're going to be primarily posting our events on our Facebook page, which is SIETAR Florida. We are collecting emails because we do have an email service, so we can send out invitations that way as well. But want to make sure that people are consulting our Facebook page. We're planning on revitalizing it, having a little bit more activity on there. One idea I had for the Facebook page was to post funny translations. So if you see any images that would be classified, in your opinion, as a funny or a weird or perhaps even a mishap of a translation, I would love to know about it. I have one that I would like to post that I was in the UPS store when my husband and I moved and had to rent a truck. I noticed that in the store they had packing peanuts, and on the English side it said packing peanuts, but on the French side of that bag it said coquille d'emballage, which is more like wrapping shells. So I thought, that is definitely something that culturally we look at those little styrofoam pieces a little bit differently, I guess. So those are some of the fun and funky things that I want to start posting on our page.
Yeah, that's great. Like pulling your leg in English is such a hard thing for people who are learning English to understand. Well, why does it have to do with pulling your leg when you're, when you're, I don't even know how to define it, pulling your leg, saying something that's not true, but it's obviously not true. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm intentionally kidding, but trying to convince you. Yeah,
and in Spanish, it's jalando el pelo. So it's pulling your hair. So it's so different. Yuko had I'll do a quick one and then we can wrap up the meeting. Did you see Yuko's on Facebook? I think it was.
I don't believe I did.
It's just a cartoon and it says life is pain, and she's added another one. It said au chocolat. So it turned from pain to pain au chocolat.
Yeah, well, I mean, in France, life is bread.
Yeah, well, especially pain au chocolat.
there's I know, right? There is an expression in French that says it's just as sad as a day without bread.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Everything.
That'd be great, and we could have members add those too. That'd be fun.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to collect some of those things and just kind of have a social media campaign where we're posting things. And I have been convinced for decades that online translators will never replace people. Never. Because some of those are so funky. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing some of our members at the SIETAR USA conference. Look for the calendar on the Facebook page because all of our events will be listed there. And we'll start trying to list events from other chapters as well as SIETAR USA. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful month.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming, Pim.